Compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertisement in the Cape May Star and Wave on the Township website and posted on the bulletin board at Township Hall.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. But before we begin, I just want to take a moment. We had a tragedy that impacted not only the township, but in particular our workforce, our township family here. One of our employees, David Thomas from Public Works, was killed this morning in a car accident on the way to work. And it's a tragedy that's impacted all of us, and our hearts and prayers go out to his wife Samantha, and they have 2 young children and another one on the way, and to his parents Linda and John Thomas. It puts all that we do, all that we think about in perspective, and I would ask that we would think of them while we're after the pledge and we do the moment of silence here. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conrad.
Here.
Councilmember Perry.
Here.
Councilmember Simonson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Beck.
Here. The consent agenda.
Yes, I'd like to...
Wait a second, Julie, we moved down to the consent agenda? Okay. I just want to make sure you're on board here.
Yeah.
Is council questions or comments on the consent agenda? Now you can go.
I'd like to move resolution number 2015-87 down to the regular agenda.
2015-87, okay.
And I would like to table Resolution 2015-83. I'll make a motion to do so.
I'll second that motion.
Councilmember Conrad.
Yes.
Councilmember Perry.
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Mayor Beck.
Yes. I have some questions on 215-85, a resolution agreeing to accept a donation of land to be used as township rec fields. I mean, it sounds like a really good idea, but I don't really know anything about that. I mean, I don't know that maybe I'm wrong. It's quite possible. A lot of things fly by, but can somebody explain it just a little bit? I did go online, I looked at it. Did we get something on this from a prior time
No,
or something?
this is a very recent event. Mrs., I believe her family name is McNeil, owns a complex of about 10-plus acres of ground. And she would like to donate it to the township. And in return, she's only requesting that the township name the recreational complex after her family, the McNeil. This is an extremely preliminary resolution. Mrs., and again, I'm sorry, I don't know her name. It is in the resolution.
Mrs. Graham.
Mrs. Graham is 86 years old and is not doing well right now.
Right.
She just wants to make sure that if the township does in fact do this, take this piece of ground, accept this donation, which we still have to have engineering and all that stuff look at it. This is just that if the township does in fact take it, they would like it named after their family. That's
Well,
all
that's-
this is, extremely preliminary.
It's very generous, obviously, and it's a small price for that.
We have not done our due diligence on this yet, other than speaking with officials from the church about the possibility of an easement to get to the site. But there's been an alternate suggestion from her also, if that does not work out. And the plan there is for multiple soccer fields, which we need drastically in the
I get that.
township.
But, the question I have is, and believe me, if we can use this is fantastic. The question is, does this carry any force? And I would ask the solicitor that question, because it does say in here, the township, that a portion of the land be accepted as a land donation for rec fields. But we're not sure if we can use it yet, right?
That's correct.
So, I mean, I maybe, you know, the point I'm saying is that, is there any reason, I mean, you know, we usually, Christmas, usually have it on the work session and have a discussion as to where we're at with this. It seems like we're going to accept this, but suppose we can't use it, and it is a rather large assessed value on this piece of land. I mean, if do you understand what I'm saying? I just want to make sure that we're okay with it. Has the engineer looked at it? Has anybody looked at it?
I think what you were asking me, Mayor, based upon the representations that have been made, this resolution does seem to be somewhat final, as opposed to preliminarily accepting it subject to our due diligence, et cetera.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know.
How about
We
if
can
we add,
only
can we-
accept it by ordinance is the first.
You have to,
You have to accept the
And what
donation by
is the
ordinance.
purpose of the resolution?
She's not
Peace of
feeling
mind.
well right
I
now.
think it's peace of mind for her.
For the lady?
But what if we added that in the last paragraph, by the Township Council, the Township Lower, that if we just add the if, a portion of the land is accepted. That way it's not locking us into, but I'm just saying it's still not,
Are you familiar with this, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, and it looks like, I looked at it on Google, it looks like a great piece, and it probably fits right in with what we're looking for, correct?
My
But you're, about the easement, right?
But there was another alternative if the easement did not come through. But the urgency was her health. She wanted to make sure this was
Yeah.
going to happen. And
We seem to be between a
If-
rock and a hard
if-
place.
We amend it.
If the acceptance of the land is going to require an ordinance anyway, this is
And then
really
this is
no
just-
more than a statement of
It is.
an intention.
We probably, you know,
It doesn't prevent us from doing our
no,
due
wait a
diligence.
second, you're not, you're,
No, I just want to get something clear. You have microphones in front of you. Would you please use them and talk?
okay, all right, I didn't know that, okay, thank you, we'll take care of that. They can't hear you, is what he's basically saying.
The resolution is preliminary anyway, by definition, if
And
it
it
requires
doesn't
an ordinance.
mandate us to anything, correct?
Correct.
that's,
Okay.
But if you'd like to amend it to put.
No, I'm not, I'm just, you know, the way the resolution's written, it seemed to me that we were accepting this like today. And, you know, the fact that there is some concern about access apparently, trying to get an easement through there. I'm just saying, maybe that's a 1 in 100 shot, but, you know, when we take land off the tax rolls, we have to make sure that we're going to be able to use it. Okay,
And-
okay, I'm fine with it.
And I guess the other question I have is whether or not the resolution compels us to, I guess, spend money
It
to
does.
do our due diligence,
Well,
to expend services.
is it landlocked? The way I looked at it, the house and the land, in other words, if we don't get some kind of an easement, we may not be able to access it. Would that be a correct?
I'm confident that that won't be an issue.
Okay.
Because the lady's family live in the houses next to this, both of the
Okay.
houses. And there was a second statement
All right.
made that if we had a problem, but we've had a meeting in the last week with representatives from Tabernacle Church discussing the possibility of this area that they have in the back of the cemetery to get to the fields without having to deal with homeowners, which are her family members.
Okay. All right. Could you keep us posted on that? I mean, I just want to make sure that, because, you know, I think it's a great deal, and Lord knows Mrs. Graham must have a rather great heart for this township to be donating 10 acres of land to us, and we certainly can use it. But I just want to make sure that we need it and can use it and all that. Okay, I'm comfortable with that. What else we got on here? Okay. Anybody else, council? Open up for public comment on the consent agenda. Close the, Ed, you have something?
I just want to make sure that actually, Ed Butler from the Village, sorry. But actually, at 2015-85, are you going to table that for future?
Now, we're going to move ahead because it carries no binding weight, the resolution in and of itself. You have to have an ordinance to accept the ground.
So you
So
have
in
to have
order to do the due diligence, as we said, we're moving ahead.
All right, so you'll have to have an ordinance accepted?
Yeah,
down
we
the
have
road.
to take a look at this, and we have to
So-
make sure it fits into what we're trying to do.
This is the first step,
Yes,
and other steps that's going to make
Yes,
sure that
it's-
everything is legal and binding, and
that's correct.
you can go through it.
That's
All
correct.
right.
Okay.
One of the other questions I want to ask, and I really don't understand it, Resolution 2015, 87, which you tabled.
That's
I believe
down,
you
we're
tabled
going to that on the regular agenda.
to talk
It's on the
about
regular
it.
agenda.
All right. If everything is according to Chapter 25 and under the code, there would be
Are
no
you talking
need-
about that, this, you got to wait until we're doing the consent agenda now. Ed. We moved that off the consent agenda. We'll be back to that with public comment.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be right back with that in a minute.
All right, thank you.
Is there any other comments or questions on the consent agenda? All right, close the public portion, Joel.
Approval of minutes, February 18th, 2015. Resolution number 2015-77 through 2015-82, 2015-84 through 86, and 2015-88.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second it.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Perry?
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Now we'll go to Resolution 2015-83. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 2015-87. This is a resolution authorizing indemnification in defense of a Lower Township employee in accordance with Chapter 25 of the Code of the Township of Lower.
I asked this to be moved down for the regular agenda. I don't really have good information on what's going on here. I'd like to get some more information. I'd like to have a closed session to do that, since it's a personnel matter. And what I do know about it makes me wonder whether or not one of the members of council would be conflicted on this anyway.
I think that's a question that I would have also about the conflict, without going into the specifics of it. But I think it's one of the reasons why we would need a closed session on this before we could.
Do we have a closed session? I don't think we have a closed session.
We don't, but I think that the circumstances that occurred today takes off the exigency of having to have a lawyer for him as far as that part goes. I think that there's a
I think,
postponement that was involved. I also would like to.
I will
I
say
have-
this, to the extent that we're going to have any substantive conversation, it has to occur in
I agree.
closed session.
Right.
It's very difficult to even dance around any pointed
Right.
questions that any council member
I got
may
it.
have without infringing upon what has to happen in a closed session.
And it's distinctly possible that I would vote for this, but I just feel that I have, the more I look at it, the more questions I have, and I don't have a total background of what this is about. And I know we talked, Jim, and we, okay, but that only raises more questions in some ways. And you get to the point where you're pulling on a ball of yarn. And I just want to take a look at this and feel confident that what we're doing is the correct thing. So I think that there's two issues. One is I think if council would be in agreement, we would schedule a closed session for the next council meeting. But the second issue involves the potential conflict of one of the people on council that I think is relevant to this also. And that might be the example of why we need to go into closed session to begin with.
Do we have time? You said something about a postponement, which I
I
haven't
think
heard.
that wasn't there a hearing postponed or something, if I remember correctly?
I don't have that information, whether or
Yeah.
not there was a hearing postponed, but if you're representing.
And I mean,
that,
if for some-
It had to be, because there was an initial hearing scheduled for, I believe, the 2nd, and that didn't occur, so.
Right. So,
Do we know when it's postponed to?
I have no idea.
well, if it turns out to be a situation where it's postponed to something that involves us having to move, right away on it, we can always do a special closed session.
Okay,
Okay, I'm certainly amenable to that, but I think at this point, I'd like to make a motion that we move this off the agenda for now.
Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
yes.
Councilmember Perry?
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution number 2015-89, a resolution amending resolution number 2015-09, establishments of the council meeting dates and times for the year 2015.
Okay, council comments? Public comments on 21589? Close the public portion. Somebody have a question? No? Okay. Close the public portion. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion? Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Perry?
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2015-02. An ordinance amending Chapter 166, Animals of the Code of the Township of Lower. This is the first reading. If this first reading goes through, the second reading and public hearing will be scheduled for March 16th, 2015.
Okay, council comments.
I want to start with the one part that was added to paragraph E. No dog shall be chained or tethered outside before sunrise or after sunset. I know a lot of seniors have dogs that they put out, and everyone puts their dogs out before they go to bed. There are a lot of seniors in the village that put their dogs on a chain or lead and let it out the front door or the back door. This will make that illegal. This is how they keep their dogs under control. They bring it in 15, 20 minutes, tops, if the dogs bark, and they bring it in. But right now, we're actually telling people they can't put their dogs out. Some people, they can't put their dogs out after dark until sunrise. That's not right for the dog or the people. I think we're getting a little carried away on some of this stuff, and this is supposed to be extreme weather, but now we're talking about chained or tethered outside before sunrise and sunset.
What is your recommendation?
If we're going to have something about that, and I know there's a problem with dog barking and people put their dogs out and leave for work, that can't happen. I would say no longer than 30 minutes. Yeah.
I'm going to change the first line as well. Dogs must be able to move freely and shall not, when chained or tethered, and shall be confined for.
No, I don't have a problem with that because
The 9 hours is okay?
the 9 hour, you think about that, they have to bring the dog in then. It can't be sitting outside for 10 hours or whatever while the people are away and the neighbors are hearing the barking. The dog has to come in and out. And I don't have an issue with that part.
So you want that to read for more than 30 minutes?
Yes,
Perfect.
Would that be for no more than 30?
yeah,
For no more than?
Yes.
I don't know.
Would I say more? I'm sorry.
and I know there's been some discussion.
What are you changing here? Let me get this.
Paragraph E, right under the first
It
part.
says dogs must be able to move freely when chained
Go
or
all the way to the
tethered.
bottom of that
The
paragraph.
last sentence.
All the way, the last, no dog shall be chained or tethered outside before sunrise or after sunset
We're longer than 30 minutes, what I would like to change, because
for more than 30 minutes after. Okay.
how many neighbors
Oh,
do
no,
you have?
that's,
Just,
that's fine.
and I know there's a question about the 32 degrees too, because some dogs Actually, I like 32 degrees. We were
Well-
discussing that beforehand.
You know, we did, and, you sit back and you say, well, if you have a 15-year-old dog and you put him out and it's 33 degrees, I mean, that is a lot more cruel than having a husky running through the snow and, a 3-year-old. But what really, I guess, in a certain way, if you go down to section 3, in other words, the question would arise, were we backing ourselves into a corner by putting specific temperatures down that we couldn't enforce something? But if you had a situation like I was saying, where you had an older dog, and it says like paragraph, section 3, G2, no animal shall be subject to unnecessary suffering and cruelty, I guess that could probably fit under there if we had to. And we also have I think, I don't know if, David, that we need to make that change on the,
G,
on G.
I see that.
If you go down to section 4, and it says A, B, C, D, E, it should be comma, F, and/or G,
Got it.
to change that, because that brings a penalty phase into section G. But you see what I'm saying, Tom? If you
Oh, no, I
if you
agree.
roll down to that section 3, number 2, and it says that no dog shall be subjected to unnecessary suffering, cruelties, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess they could be charged under that.
Well, yes, and one would hope they didn't put their dog out for 30 minutes at 2 a.m. One would hope common sense would be used.
All right. Okay.
So what would you like to do about that? I
it's-
agree with you on this. This is,
Yeah, we're fine. You put your change in there, and that's fine.
no, I mean about the 32. You were saying
32
it's-
degrees, well, I think as long as you could turn around, and like I said, using the 15-year-old dog at 33 degrees, that would be cruel. So you go down to section 3 where it says, okay, we can't prosecute them for it being 32 or below, but we can prosecute them in the next section where it says that, yeah, where you have to take care of the animal. Prolonged fear, injury, pain, or physical abuse. So
we
that
learned-
would work.
Yeah, as we learned over the past month, there's a difference between 32 degrees sometimes. or
Yeah,
below.
and I agree with that. So basically, the only real change besides the penalty for G would be to have the chain or tethered for, instead of sunset, sunrise, a half hour, right?
Maximum half an hour in the dark.
That's not Dave, that's not a substantive change then, right? You okay with that?
For the added language for more than 30 minutes?
We're no
Yeah.
longer than 30 minutes.
I don't
That's not-
think that's a
see
substantial
it.
change. I
Okay.
think that was the intent of the original language, and going down to subsection 4, adding G isn't a substantial change.
No.
It conforms with
Right. Okay.
the language above.
So this is the first reading.
Did anyone, and I didn't remember if I heard anyone, did anyone have a problem with the last sentence of
F.
section 2? I
Section
thought
2.
somebody had.
Section 2, or, yeah, in F, the garage or basement, unless heated or in cold months and air conditioner in hot months. I think that's a little bit extreme, too. I know people have garages that have their pets in their garage. In the summertime, shaded garage, concrete floor is usually relatively cool. I don't know anyone that has a air-conditioned garage. I do know, of heated garages. I have a heated one myself, but, I don't want to see us working an ordinance that people really can't comply with, and I think that's a little much, personally. Garages are, concrete floor, like I said, are usually relatively cool in the summertime.
Manager Ridgway, I'm just curious, did we get a chance to run these changes by the Dr. Holland? Has he weighed in on any of this?
Well, I think he sent the original.
I want to know he's good with,
This pretty much strengthens his ordinance within the temperature scenario that we all discussed.
Microphone.
so.
Yeah, he's good with where we're going on this.
I believe so.
Okay.
Well, you would have to take out,
What would you want to?
yeah, if you want that, you don't want that. I don't, if we do, I think we're chopping that up pretty good then. Indoors will include any area of the residence which is temperature controlled. Your garage doesn't have a thermostat in there, and if you're going to do that, you're going to take out that whole last section of F.
Or at least make the garage and basement inclusive as long as it doesn't fall outside of those prescribed temperatures. Obviously, if your garage is not 90 degrees, it may be okay, and if the basement's not below 32 degrees, it might be okay. I mean, you have to come up with the language, but
Yeah. Okay, I guess indoors would include any area of the residence which conforms to the above temperature requirements, period.
right.
And then just X out everything after that. Indoors would include any area of the residence which conforms to the above temperature specifications, I guess would be a more correct term. And then just cross out everything after that. Are we still within the parameters of what we can do here?
Well, we're getting real close. to
I want
making
a section about ducks in here
change.
too.
We're getting real close to making a substantive change, but I think rather than just throw out language, we would be better off.
Hey,
It's
look.
already March 2nd. We're
It's
going into months that
Well,
probably aren't really problematic.
probably best that we look at it a few times.
Right, I would prefer that we move it to a first reading again. That would be my recommendation.
I don't have a problem with that.
If we're going to cut out
You all right
that
with
last sentence or.
I don't
Yeah.
have a problem. It's,
And I like your language, but I'll propose, I'll look at it and I'll make a proposal.
Throw something in there. Okay. So basically,
We're amending the ordinance.
we're going to amend the ordinance. Do we table this?
I think we table it, and what I think we're moving toward is
Reintroduce.
revising the language consistent with the comment, and then have a first reading again
Okay.
at the next meeting.
So we'll get a motion to table it. Somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion, we table it.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Perry?
Yes.
Councilmember Simonson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes. Where are we at?
Administrative reports.
We're done with the other stuff? Okay, administrative reports. We move down to council comments. Councilman Conrad?
Keep it short tonight. I want to thank everyone for their support for the different functions that we've been having throughout, but good news, the spring is coming, the weather's going to change, it's supposed to get warmer, and I think that's it for right now.
I have a couple things. It was brought to my attention, a lot of the residents in North Cape May were sent a flyer out from Waste Management advertising their services. And a couple people were curious about what was going on with that. I called Waste Management and talked to some people there, and that was mistakenly sent to the people in Lower Township. It was meant for the people in the city of Cape May, and that's why it was sent out to areas of Lower Township. And all can rest at ease that our Public Works is continuing to take care of our waste. The other thing is, I've been, since the budget was introduced and looking at the numbers, I have been working, trying to look at different avenues, different ways of possibly saving money and bringing that increase down. I've been working with the manager, Mr. Ridgway, on looking at new ways of possible shared services to ease the burden on our tax dollars here in Lower, and also for us to help other government entities with what we have to offer. So I just want to let everybody know things are working to try to bring that figure down.
All right.
Just, again, condolences go out to the Thomas family. And, I mean, our sincere prayers go out. I want to also wish Chris South a speedy recovery and good health in the very near future, like today and on. Want to congratulate Eileen on a great, she did another great benefit for Run for the Fallen, New Jersey Run for the Fallen. I was extremely happy for her when I saw the outcome. You know, if you went out that night, the weather was very poor, and nonetheless, the showing was much more than I think anyone expected under the circumstances, and it was a great turnout. So congratulations again. Yeah. A couple of things on the local front with our schools. We had Eric Brzezinski, one of our wrestlers. He's a senior, reached a 100-win milestone, which is somewhat of a great accomplishment in New Jersey. There's only a small list of people that have done it, and he's only the third person from our local high school to do it. Unfortunately, he is not going to make it to Atlantic City this year to the States, but he had a great high school career and will be wrestling in college. Also, our girls basketball team had beaten Ocean City just over a week ago to clinch a co-championship for their Cape Atlantic League division. They went on. Maddie Gibson was another player who scored 1,000 points. We have a 2,000-point scorer and a 1,000-point scorer on the same team, which is pretty incredible. They lost in the CAL championship game up at Stockton College, Richard Stockton College, on Saturday. But nonetheless, are playing tonight in the first round of the Group 2 playoffs, state playoffs, and they're seated number 1 in South Jersey. So I encourage people to get out and see that team. The boys are also playing this evening. They're against Middle Township. Yesterday was a great event hosted at our local Performing Arts Center at Lower Cape May Regional. It was the All South Jersey Band, middle school band, which is a great event, and we've seen schools from Southern Regional, Toms River, all the way up to near Trenton, and we were fortunate enough to have 8 of our Richard M. Titleman students that were selected through an audition process, and it was a great turnout, great concert, standing room only, and it just showed off our facilities over there, showed it off to the rest of Southern New Jersey, which I thought was great. Just wanted to mention, I read the MUA report, and I know it's been a tough year for the MUA, but I just want to congratulate them on the great job they've done in saving money and also putting a lot of hard work and energy and money into our infrastructure. I also want to thank Craig Loper and the chairman for, I know there's some issues in Ward 3 that are being dealt with, and anytime I call and need answers, get them right away. And I appreciate that time, and I look forward to working with them for shared services in the future, not only to get our tax rate down, but also for next year and years to come. So with that, just everybody be safe out there. It's very slippery, as I could tell you. Thank you.
On the 23rd, we had a meeting regarding the FEMA maps, which have a huge impact on the township. They have an impact on folks' insurance rates, an impact on the values of their homes, the ratables of the township. And the township is really getting a double whammy as a result of how this is all playing out. First of all, the FEMA has a law that they have to stick to that makes no sense for us whatsoever. Dr. Farrell, who we've hired to look at this, basically says the law that, as they apply it to us, doesn't make any sense for the kind of landscape that we have and the kind of shoreline that we have. But FEMA, sometimes government just does a one-size-fit-all approach to doing things, and they've got a law that basically puts a lot of folks in this township that weren't in a flood zone, never been in a flood zone, now they're in a flood zone because of this rule. And it needs to be contested. Unfortunately, it's not something that we can do. It's a federal law. We'd have to take on FEMA and their legislation. So I think that some of the folks in the township have come to me and said, what can we do to fight this? And I've asked them to look into it. Some of them are lawyers, and see if there's a way we can challenge this FEMA rule. We're going to have to get to Congressman Robiondo about it, because what we know is this law doesn't make any sense, and yet it's driving the flood insurance rules in our township for hundreds of our folks. So the second whammy that we're getting is because, any attempt, the whole coast along the Atlantic Ocean, right, which really does, has been challenged for years with regards to flooding, they're going to get shore protection sand as a result of the money coming from Sandy. They told us we were going to get some shore protection from that same pot as a result of Sandy. But then they looked and said, nope, I'm sorry, we can't give you the money for shore protection, because what's going on with your township is that your bay shore it needs to be protected because of its environmental significance. It's a really important piece of environmental, it's a treasure for our whole region, this bay shore, because of the wildlife that we have, because of the birds that lay the eggs and the horseshoe crabs that come. But because the protection is based on the premise of protecting the wildlife and protecting the environment, we don't qualify for getting any of the money from the state to protect our beach. So here we are. FEMA's hitting us with a law that doesn't make any sense, putting us into flood zones where we were never in flood zones and don't expect to be in flood zones. And then we're told we can't have any shore protection because you're not qualifying for the Sandy funds, because your shore protection is based on environmental concerns. So we had Tom and Councilman Perry and the mayor and myself, and this room was full of people, very much concerned. Now, here's the point. We're going to get a date sometime in the near future, right, from FEMA, and once we get that date, we're going to have, I think, 90 days to pile up every contest and every concern that we have as a council and hand it to FEMA and make sure they know every one of our concerns. The concerns of each individual homeowners, as well as our concerns as a township. So you'll be hearing more about this as we compile a really good list of concerns to make sure FEMA addresses those during our period, this 90-day period that we have. And secondly, I just want to say to the folks on television and the folks that are here, thank you for coming to these council meetings. We've moved the meetings till 7 in hopes of getting more folks to come. It's really important that folks get engaged. I know a lot of folks are watching on television, but this is your government, and your best shot at getting something done, if you watch these council sessions, you'll notice that people that come up and express their concerns get things done. And that's the best opportunity you have to improve your township and make sure the community gets better. So I want to encourage folks to get involved and look after their community and make sure we're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I quickly inject something? One of the things that Deputy Mayor Clark brought up was the definitions that FEMA is using. One of the problems we're having with that is, if you're familiar with Reed's Beach or Pierce's Point, which are pretty much flat surfaces, they're out of those zones. The Villas, which is dunes, are high, much higher, as Dr. Farrell said, 12 feet usually is the average, which is well above the flood area. They're in flood zones now. But Reed's Beach, they're outside it. And that's just almost a sand dune, and that's the shame. We're not trying to get Reed's Beach in trouble with FEMA, but why aren't they using the same definitions and formulas for Lower Township as they do for Reed's Beach?
Yeah.
Well,
It's a contradiction.
the law states, if you can follow this, and it's written into the code, that the V zone comes through the bay and it goes to the landward side of the toe of the first dune. So it's why, as you come along, say down along by Harpoon Henry's, they're not in the V zone. But when you come north, because they've got the street, they have something in front. The only way around that is to have something in front of your house, whether it's a bulkhead or a berm or something to that effect. Other than that, it's basically legislated that the V-zone extends through the first dune to the landward side, the toe of the first dune. So that's the problem.
Let me just add, the craziness of this whole thing is that it's going to incentivize some people, if they've got the money, to go start throwing up more barriers along the beach. Now, that's not going to be good for the environmental issues, to throw up more barriers along the beach, but that's what any rational person would do, and that's costing at least $400 a foot to put those barriers. Many have already done it. It's what they need to do to protect their area. The person who's next to them who doesn't have the barrier usually loses out. And, at the end of the day, if we are incentivizing people in order to avoid these huge insurance hikes to put up barriers, that's not going to be the best solution at the end of the day for our township and for people walking along there and enjoying the shore. So it's a crazy, as you said, it's just crazy. It's a crazy rule that doesn't apply to us, that's being made to apply to us, and if we don't fight it, shame on us. So
I would like to get a definition of how much, that's Dr. Farrell brought up, they used the ocean formula, how much of a change they did for the bay, because the bay's totally different, and did they use it for the Chesapeake, Hudson, and other areas the same way?
yeah, we're going to challenge on their methodology. Yeah.
Well, the methodology is one way that they determine it, but they use the definition of what about the dune.
Yeah, I know, but
That puts
Reed's
them
Beach
in-
doesn't have a dune, so
I know, but they have, well, of course, there's other factors in there too. All right, we'll open it up to call to the public. If you have a question or a comment, you wish to come forward. This lady back here.
Helen Thompson, 44 East Delaware Parkway. Mr. Conrad, you said, made a statement about a concrete floor. I guess you said that most people have heat in their basements.
no, I
What
did
about
not
the
make
dog
it.
ordinance?
No, I didn't.
You made a statement that the concrete floor should be sufficient.
No, I didn't make any
What
statements
did
about
you
that.
say? Can you explain? Can you?
I didn't make the
that?
statement.
You didn't say anything about a concrete
No,
floor?
I did.
Basement?
Doctor?
I did not make any statements. I talked about the leashes, dogs being tethered.
All right. About tabling the ordinance, the extreme weather ordinance. 4 of you on this council have known about this ordinance since January of 2014. It's 15 months. You let the dogs and the pets, not you, and not you, Mr. Stavankowitz, and not you, Mr. Ridgway, not you, Mr. Perry, the other 4. You let the pets go through like one of the worst winters I can remember. Now you tabled it. You had 15 months to think about the language.
We could argue with you, but to be honest, it wasn't brought to council prior, so
So you never knew anything about it?
it wasn't brought to us. We don't know if
Mike
every...
Vole didn't, I had my
Okay, what you gave to Mike Vole or what Mike Vole had, it doesn't necessarily mean
prior
what council
attorney
had.
never gave it to any of you either?
I don't remember.
I think we.
None of you?
It was in an email, but it was like you wouldn't unless you opened it, and it was something from Dr.
Correspondence
Yeah,
type thing.
it was an addendum. The point, though, and I object to that, because reality is, our ordinance as it sits now, if somebody had a dog out there the other day in the snow, and we haven't passed the new ordinance, in the ice last snow or something like that, our ordinance would have been quite capable of arresting them and charging them, based upon the way it sat before. We would have hauled them in the court had we gotten a complaint and found somebody that left their dog out. So the difference is, look, we're passing this ordinance and we're putting the temperature in there, but the ordinance as it sat before, in some ways, by it being somewhat vague, enabled us to do more. Now, the one reason that I'm supporting this ordinance is because we left that language in there. And I tried to explain that by saying to you that by putting down specifically 32 degrees, if somebody has an older pet that has no business being out in the rain in a 34-degree weather, we still would be able to go after them based upon the language of the ordinance we're about to pass. But that was so with the old ordinance too, because it had that about inhumane treatment, that whole language that was in there. If we had
Except when
removed that and
stuff
just
gets in
used,
court, it gets thrown out in court.
well, I'm not sure why it would be thrown out. It shouldn't be thrown out because, I mean, it's like a lot of different things. The criteria is met by the description of what you have in front of you, that a reasonable person would believe that that is inhumane. I mean, we don't have to put numbers on everything in order to determine that what you're doing is not treating that animal correctly. But we are putting that down specifically, but we also will remain with the other language, which gives us the ability to go even further.
So you're saying with the ordinance that we had on the books before the extreme weather ordinance was introduced or whatever,
Right.
was good enough?
Yes, it was.
Bring dogs in.
Yes, it was.
In snow and
It
whatever.
was good enough to charge somebody for treating their dog inhumanely.
Well, then there's no need for the extreme weather, correct?
Well, I think that it's one of these deals that people want that kind of language in the ordinance, and in conjunction with what we already have, it makes it even better.
It was updating an old ordinance and making us look at it again to try to help the animals.
There was other
You brought it
flaws.
forth. We
Right.
agreed with you.
I'm going to reiterate this. You've had months to do this.
Okay.
Months. I wasn't the first one that introduced this, just so you know. I know you know this. I'll do another Oprah request. I canceled the last one. I'll get all records that were sent to any of you guys, all your emails. I'll prove you knew about this since January. I know for a fact you've known since January. I'll bring them all to court. I mean, to the meeting, one by one, and I'll bring them out. 15 months. I appreciate if you get the ordinance passed. If you're going to pass it, if you're going to table it for infinity, then let me know.
You just heard he's going to have it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what the mayor said, was that there was an ordinance in place. We're just cleaning up the language in it. Unfortunately now, if a person brings some type of documentation to court that it was 34 degrees that day, you're not going to be able to do anything.
All
But-
right?
But
The garage and basement,
one would hope people would use common sense as pet owners.
the garage and basement, what, it doesn't have to be air conditioned, temperature controlled, or it is going to have to be? I'm not clear on that, the way, what you guys said.
It has to meet the parameters of the temperatures that were in the ordinance. In other words, it can't be below a certain temperature or above another temperature. I mean, a lot of people, you can't ask people, I mean, that's pretty good.
If you're an animal owner, if you own an animal, then it's your responsibility to take care of it. If you don't take care of the animal, there should be consequences. And without strong laws and strong ordinances, there won't be able to be consequences.
Okay.
And that's why animals are dying, getting frostbite, and whatever else. And please keep that in mind when you decide what the language is going to be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else wish to address council? This gentleman here.
John Skoronsky, 607 Arctic. On the February 2nd council meeting, I brought up the question about what was the latest happening between the police, where they are at the airport, and with the county and the township to solve problems that are there. And Jim Ridgway said that he was looking into it. I just wonder what he just found out in the last month.
Excuse me, I had a meeting this week with a couple officials from the county, and we discussed bringing in the county, looks like April 6th, for a conceptual look at a possible concept that could solve some problems or all the problems. I haven't seen this whole conceptual arrangement, but I've had discussions there. I've been at the police department several times addressing quite a few different issues over there. I am on it, and you'll be hearing a plan, I feel, in the next month and a half.
Okay. Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, do we have more mold over there?
We have not received our results from the testing we've done. We did receive,
We have a complaint of more mold, and there's stuff on the ceiling, and we're in the process of having it fixed.
we're in a remediation.
I mean, we've had 25 years, dating back to 1991, problems with mold over there. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, we're sitting here and we're talking about protecting animals. I know how to get a new police building. We put a kennel over there. We'll have 1,000 people in here demanding that we shut down the police building. I mean, the truth is that we've had leaks, we've had mold many times over there, and we just had a report within the past couple of weeks of more mold over there.
We had a complaint, but at the same time, this could have been remediated prior with some different easy things, but certain people didn't want to do any maintenance, so this is where we're at right now.
It's certain people are on it, and the bottom line is it's been leaking since the day before we got
A
it.
few months ago, you were saying it wasn't leaking yet, so
Before we got it, in 1991, we had
we
reports.
should have put a roof
Well,
on it.
there's been nothing done over the last 5 years to do any type of anything to help the police over there with that building. So,
Well, there has.
But
Well, how
as we
long ago did
stand,
we just put we just put a part of a roof on over there. We just keep chasing water inside that place.
I've worked in that building since 1995 until I recently retired, and the maintenance on that building, I can tell you factually, has been minimal at best. And yes, there has been leaks, but just like your home, if you don't repair it, it's going to continue to leak. And I personally went 2 years ago to try to get our office cleaned up and some issues taken care of, and I was told that there would be no money spent in that building. And I believe if you don't take care of something, you're going to have issues. And I think that's part of the problem over there. You have to have continued maintenance, and if your roof's leaking, you got to fix it right. And if that doesn't get taken care of, then you get water again, you get mold.
It's been leaking
Yeah, but
forever.
It's been so long, and
It's a full acre flat roof.
We believe the police should, yes, it should be a good police, everything should have been remediated, fixed right the first time. I agree 100% with you.
Let me say, no matter what gets done, we need to ensure the safety of our workforce over there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we all agree with that.
exactly, that's why something should have been done over these last 5 years,
I
6
think we
years.
all agree with that.
Yes.
And I think that we did have, if I'm not correct, we did put over the courts, we put a part of a roof on. How long ago was that? Do you remember that? A couple of years ago.
Other than that, it's been muck.
Well, I mean, you've had, as well as I do, the rescue squad has leaked and continues to leak.
Yep, and they haven't fixed it yet, you're correct.
And the part of it is
Yeah.
that you have a structure over there that is just prone to leak. It's a full acre flat roof with 16 HVACs on the roof.
And in
You've
1993,
got
they said you
16
had 5
source,
years left for a
source
roof.
points.
In 1993, in the minutes, it states,
Well-
you need to have a new roof on there within 5 years.
All I know is that
Now it's 2015, and has not been a new roof
And
yet.
when you do start to see the mold on the ceiling, that means it's been growing inside there.
yeah,
let's fix the leaks.
And to make it worse, now we're depending on the county, and who knows how long that's going to take for them to do something. In the meantime, we have problems over there.
And there's been no
So,
plan for
you know,
that either.
We got
Yeah,
to
there's
get
been no
it.
plan to fix it, that's the problem, over the last 5 years, so just,
I asked for,
Why can't we do it now?
I had asked for repairs over there.
Let's start.
Like I said 2 years ago, I asked for repairs over there, and I was told that they were not going to spend any money in that building. And now, we're just starting to try to get in here to fix some of the things, so to make the building safe.
And
Yeah, but that was with the county, and that started the middle of last year. and we haven't gotten anywhere with the county.
That's not,
Well,
that's not correct.
That's not correct, and it's also due to some extenuating circumstances.
You're the one who brought it up.
That's right, and I've been working on it, and you're going to hear exactly what they have to say on April 6th, so make sure you're at the meeting.
You were the one that objected about moving the fire station over here, or the police station over here.
That's correct.
Because you said the county wanted to get involved, and maybe the township and the county could work something out on that building.
Yes, sir.
When did you say that?
A couple months ago, and they have been.
Several months ago.
Yes, and it's been in the works.
But that's,
Yeah, I think the manager just told you it's been in the works and that they're going to present on April 6th.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else wish to address council? Yes.
Tom Frizoli from the Villas. I would like to first add to statements made by Councilman Conrad, the deputy mayor, and our mayor pertaining to the FEMA. I live in the Villas, and I live down on the wood side of the Villas, not the bay side. In 1992, I remortgaged my home. And in so doing, my insurance company, Wells Fargo, informed me that they would like me to present to them a geological survey of where my property was, how high it was to mean level, plus the fact of putting an addition on. I paid a gentleman who did that from Atlantic County. I submitted it, and they said, absolutely, you're not in a flood zone. You're 11 feet above level, not counting the 4-foot addition with your blocks to your home. That being said, after Sandy, I was informed that we are now considered to be in wetlands. So now I'm one of many who are paying an additional gift, as you may have, of flood insurance. Mine is $1,800 a year. So the bottom line is, and I really emphasize it, I'm sure everyone appreciates what the three of you and all of you have done. But I think that they say, the expression goes, we're battling a lost cause because they don't really care about us. They're all worried about their money. Number two, at the reorganization meeting, I came up here and I congratulated all of you guys. And I said at that time, there will come a time soon when the vote will be 5-0 on council. And with that, the mayor said, will that be 2 years from now? I said, no, it's going to be happening soon. Well, last meeting, we almost achieved that because all but one vote was 5-0. Tonight is 5-0. Why do I bring that up? Because the prejudicial writing that these newspaper reporters put out make us look like total idiots. That statement was put in writing as to state that I made a statement that we are going to put out to get rid of the two people recalling, the mayor and the deputy mayor. What I said, I stand by today. The sad news is I am no longer going to put up with the newspapers and their prejudicial articles, even if I have to spend money or go to other outside areas. Be fair to everybody. Thank you.
I'm not sure how to answer that. Does anybody else wish to address council? Yeah.
Janet Pittsvilles. I wanted to know when we're going to start talking about the budget and things that we can do to reduce it. I have some concerns, one being health insurance, since ours supposedly went up 12%. But we kind of got it down to 7 with the employee contributions, yet Ocean City was able to reduce theirs by 1%. I don't know if we need to go out shopping as we've done in the past or whatever, but I do think our increase is a a little high when you consider the other towns are able to get reductions, especially when you figure most of the employees, if they're in the 4 year of the Chapter 78, which also sunsets this June, I might add, for contract negotiations, are paying the highest rate. So I am not quite sure. And there's also an add-on there for health insurance that was not in last year. So whenever we can start asking questions about the budget, I'd like to know before it's approved and voted on. Yes. Anybody? Hello.
You know, you were on vacation, I believe.
Oh, you have
Okay.
to throw that in my
Right.
face.
I believe you were out of town.
I
We
was out of
introduced the budget last time,
Yeah.
and there was some discussion at that point, but reality is we still have, when is the adoption? The second meeting in April?
April 20th.
April 20th, so you're 6 weeks out.
So we can have like
Oh, we're working
session
feverishly on it.
dedicated to that, and where can people make suggestions and?
You can make it right at the microphone,
Okay, good. enough.
anytime.
And you just made one.
You did.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ed Butler from the Villas again. Just get back to this famous situation with Deputy Mayor brought up and what Mr. Rizzoli brought up. It's not a lost cause. This has to be fought. Now, whatever his insurance rates were is probably because of the mortgage factor. And that has a lot to do with it. So I can tell you personal experience, living on the bay, paying a nice sum for the ratables and all, and my taxes for, actually my insurance rate it's half of what his is. There's something wrong in that area. But it shouldn't be given up as far as a lost cause, because it affects many people, not just the people in the bay. Because if anything would happen up there and it would breach whatever was there, this whole area is gone. It's not just the properties on the bay. That's all downhill from the bay itself. This area would be flooded, and if it was a Category 3, you might as well stay where you're at, you're dead. You're not getting out of here. With the road situation, with the evacuation, and I'm sure Councilman Perry knows that, you would never move from this area. So it is important to fight this situation. The people on the ocean side, like our Deputy Mayor said, with as far as FEMA and what they put in there and the Army Corps of Engineers, we should have something along that bay like we should have had in 2099 when it was first brought up by the Army Corps Engineer and rejected because the township officials didn't want to put a few bucks into it to do that. We wouldn't be in that position today. So now we are. But you can't walk away from it, and I'm asking you gentlemen, please keep on fighting this. You have to get politically involved with it. I have called Senator Van Drew myself, and I'm really disturbed with that. I never got an answer back in 3 days. I will stay on top of that as far as trying to do whatever I can. And every taxpayer in this township should be on that phone with Biondo and with Van Drew. We need political help beyond locally.
You're right.
So thank you for listening to me, but please, keep fighting it, and it's not a lost cause.
Ed, if your house floods, we're all in trouble. You're right.
It's
But we're doing a
done.
multi-pronged thing. Yeah, your house is way higher than my house, so,
Yeah.
and that's part of the part I don't understand. But that we're doing a multi-plan. The FEMA maps are one thing. The coastal resiliency grant that we seek to help get Fishing Creek fixed and Cox Hall, that's going to help. That helps the northern end of the villas and the east side. It's not just one thing, it's multiple. We're going on multiple fronts here trying to resolve this issue and get proper mitigation to help it get, we can't change the elevation of your house, but at the same time, if we get some of the water levels down elsewhere and build up our bulk work along Cox Hall, Fishing Creek, and other areas, that's going to help everybody. And that's the key thing.
Well, I understand the two ends because we have actually a cricket and marshes on both sides of this, Phyllis. You have it right in back here, wetlands.
That's part of it.
So the whole thing, has to be protected somewhere down the road. That bays, and all the way from the point, all the way up to Reed's Beach. Reed's Beach, they replenished twice already because they had somebody there that was an environmental individual that was head of the DEP. Niall was his name. Within 6 months, they filled that up twice up there. Why? Not because of the people,
No, horseshoe crabs.
because of horseshoe crabs.
Well, they have a long memory up
bird.
there, the
Well, you know what?
Army Corps, and when we turned, it was in '98, actually, when it was turned down.
Okay, I'll offer you. Well,
Not-
anyway,
19.
whenever it was, whoever was involved with it, I hope they pay for it, man, because that could have been done very cheaply.
Right.
And like you mentioned, we've never been in that situation. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Anybody else? This gentleman over here.
Mike Rosenberg, Villas. The FEMA maps, were they approved?
No.
They're not approved yet. Okay.
No, they have to have a meeting here once during that 90-day period, so we'll be in touch with the people.
Now, when they are approved, will they supersede the existing flood zone maps that are over at the county engineer's office right now?
Yes.
They will? Okay. Also, the land that's going to be donated, do you have a lot and block for that I could get, maybe?
It's 970 something or other.
That's,
Thank you.
That's the address. It's not.
preliminary that we don't even have it.
No, but you can still look it up. It's on the.
Tabernacle.
Do you have your the agenda? Well, I should say, do you have the package? The resolution gives you an address, and what you can do is look up the. You can just Google the address and see the.
If you Google the corner,
793.
Okay, 793 Tabernacle.
if you look right behind the second part of the cemetery, the northern end of Tabernacle and Seashore Road, it's the land behind it.
Okay. Anybody else wish to address council? Close the public portion. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.